Lakeland Currents, your public affairs program for North Central Minnesota. Production funding for Lakeland Currents is made possible by Bemidji Regional Airport, serving the region with daily flights to Minneapolis-St. Paul International Airport. More information available at bemidjiairport.org. Closed captioning for Lakeland Currents is sponsored by Nisswa Tax Service, tax preparation for businesses and individuals. Online at nisswatax.com.
I'm Jason Edens, your host of Lakeland Currents. Thank you for joining us again, and thank you for your ongoing support of Lakeland Public TV, which continues to provide outstanding coverage throughout the pandemic. Coronavirus pandemic has created unprecedented and unexpected challenges for nearly every sector of our society. We are literally having to reinvent how we approach several cornerstones of our society, and our education system is certainly no exception. Students, families, schools, all across our country and certainly our region have had to pivot to distance learning as we deal with the COVID-19 pandemic. Here to help us understand how one school district in our region is dealing with the extraordinary challenges and what students and families can do to make the most of this new learning environment are my guests from the Pine River Baptist Schools, Dave Endicott, Superintendent, Melanie Lindquist, French teacher, and Nikki Linston Lodge, Youth and Family Services Director for the district. Thank you all for the very important work you do each and every day, and especially now during these challenging times, and thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Superintendent Endicott, I'd like to start with you. First and foremost, I can't imagine how tumultuous the last several weeks have been, and our normal has been literally upended. So I'm curious, how are you and your team and your students holding up? How's everyone doing?
Well, I tell you, it's been the most exhausting, difficult time I've experienced in 26 years of education, and also probably the time I've been most proud. It's been amazing how our village has stepped up to serve the needs of all of our families and each other. But I'd be lying to you if I told you everybody's doing great, because it's just a difficult time. And it's not just us. It's everybody that we work with, everybody we serve, that it's difficult, and as educators, our norm is to run to the crisis and help. And here we're in a crisis that we don't get to run to. When there's a blizzard, we go help people shovel out. We go pull their cars out. We do those different things. If they have a house fire, we find things they need. Any of those personal crises. If a tornado came, we'll come and we'll find ways to cut the wood and move it. Now we have a crisis where we're told, don't go. You got to stay where you're at. And so that's exhausting to try to care and be there for everybody. But in the big picture, I'm just absolutely amazed at what we're doing. We got a call on a Sunday morning from the governor saying we're going to be closing school. And by 1 o'clock, we had an admin team meeting. By Wednesday, we had our staff together. And by the next Monday, we were doing distance learning, delivering meals, delivering homework, doing, in a week's time, we put together what probably would be 2 or 3 years of programs through food service, transportation, distance learning, all those different pieces. So it's pretty amazing, pretty exhausting. And I think we got to continue to be vigilant about the concern for mental health for all the folks working here and all the folks that we're serving as well.
Well, I really appreciate your candor and obviously your efforts as well. What exactly is the overall strategy at the district? How are you obviously continuing to educate students? How are you feeding students? How are you keeping people in their jobs? Just tell us a little bit about the district's strategy.
Yeah, well, I think probably not just our district, but any district has directives that we're following through, and we think we've been giving good directives to take care of our folks. So we have a few different components. One is the food service component. We're delivering about 1,200 meals a day, 600 breakfasts, 600 lunches, Monday through Friday. So we have very significant meal pieces that are happening. Most of those are delivered by buses. So we have all our transportation people as well as paraprofessionals and custodians jumping in to help prepare the meals and deliver the meals. We also have childcare available for all those that are in that essential workforce, particularly in the healthcare field. And so we have an average of 15 students a day coming in for childcare, and we have paraprofessionals that are managing all of that for us and doing just a great job at taking care of that. And then we have the distance learning, in which we have a whole bunch of folks that are involved, teachers and paras, that are involved in helping us deliver the best we can education to our students through Schoology and through the online platform. To pretend it's as good as it is if we have the students here at school would be a lie. Uh, Having them at school right there with us is certainly the best way to teach. But considering the circumstances, I think we've seen success through some frustrations. The first week Schoology was crashing, especially when all the West Coast schools jumped on board, and that was a frustration for teachers and families alike. We're seeing that get better. There's still
Mhm.
frustrations and there's still worries about engagement with students that don't always have the support to get online and do the work that's being asked. But we've reached out to every single student in some form through phone calls, letters, emails, everything. And then staying in touch. So Nikki and some of those folks are making sure that those families that we aren't getting that connection with, uh, we're reaching out and making sure that they're taken care of. So every single person in our school has stuff to do. There are some folks that are legitimately at risk and can't come in, so we found some work for them to do from home, such as writing postcards to students, helping with special ed teachers and some of their connections with kids and meeting the IEP goals and needs that are there. So it's a lot. It's significant.
I can't imagine. So just very briefly, Schoology, many folks may not be familiar with that. Is that the platform that you're using for distance learning?
Yeah, it's called a learning management system. A lot of folks are using Schoology. Some are using Google Classroom. Some are using Seesaw. There's a variety of different platforms out there. We were already doing Schoology throughout our 7-12 in particular, and had access to it K through 12. So in order to simplify it for parents, we've tried to limit the platforms that we're presenting to them so they don't have 7 different logins to take care of, especially if you got 3, 4 kids at home, that gets, it's already too much. And then you add
Sure.
all those kinds of things to it. It's just really, how do we simplify it so families can be successful?
So no two school districts are exactly alike, right? So I'm curious, do you feel that what you're experiencing and your strategies, is this similar to what other school districts in Minnesota are experiencing? And also on a related note, are you in contact with other superintendents in terms of, vetting strategies or discussing ideas?
Yeah, in answer to your first question, yeah, I think all of us are in a similar boat, and all of us are, as one superintendent told me yesterday, we're kind of just making stuff up here because there's no plan in there. We have a big crisis manual, and nowhere does it say you're not going to have school for 2 or 3 months. Whatever that looks like. Um, so yeah, we definitely, I think, are similar to what other districts are doing, and we have an incredible group of superintendents in Region 5. We have, it's slowed down now, but I will tell you, the first week I probably had 100 emails a day from superintendents in our region asking questions, sharing ideas, sharing documents with each other. Here's what we're putting out, here's what we're doing. Pretty remarkable. And we're blessed to have this group of folks. I got a bunch of people that I can call, or they'll call me and, hey, what are you doing in this scenario? Because we've never dealt with it before. Uh,
Yeah.
so we are very fortunate. We've got really good people at the helm of these districts, and they're working together and collaborating as well as any group as I've ever been a part of.
It's fantastic that everyone's coming together. I live in a rural part of your district, and I personally struggle with internet access. So I'm really curious. We still have a digital divide in our society, and I'm curious: do all of your students have access to the internet? Do all of your students even have the hardware necessary to make distance learning work? How are you dealing with that?
Yeah, great question. Well, first of all, I would tell you, we've got a tech team that I would rival with anybody in the state. We have 3 incredible people working in our tech department that have really gone to all ends to try to find resources for all of our families. The last I heard, and we certainly may be missing some, is we had 2 families that I was aware of that didn't have connectivity. And there was some different reasons engaged in that process. We have tried to either get the resources out. We've been fortunate. A lot of our phone companies, the Emily Co-op, TDS, Charter, have all offered free internet
Hmm.
for folks that live in their service areas. The cell phone providers have removed their data cap, so you can use your phone as a hotspot and not be paying those overages for data in that process. So we've tried to help people get lined up with one of those pieces. And as far as we know, for the most part, we've captured just about everybody. We're in the process of looking at a grant through Sourcewell to buy some Kajits, which is a hotspot device. Uh, we're not going to get them before the end of this school year because unbelievably have sold out of everything. But we're hoping that we're going to just plan for what could be ahead. You know, if we have this come up again, do we have the devices we can help families out with? And there's a grant out there that could possibly take care of that for us. So I think
Well, I'm glad
we've
to,
managed
oh,
it
I'm
pretty
sorry.
well. No problem.
I'm glad to hear it's not as much of a barrier as many people believe it to be. And I'm also happy to hear your corporate partners are really leaning in to make that possible.
Folks have really stepped up.
Well, Superintendent Endicott, I'm going to come back to you in a moment with another question for you. But Melanie, as a French teacher, I'm really curious if you can tell us a little bit about what's a day in the life of a teacher at Pine River Bacchus like these days. I think, for those that don't work in a school, we really don't know. So what's an average day like for you these days?
Well, on the surface, I think if you could kind of fly over the houses of all of us teachers, it would be a lot of us sitting at our kitchen tables looking at our screens a lot of our day, which is completely the opposite of what we normally are doing in a day. But then if you were to look under the surface of each individual teacher, it depends on what they have going on in their personal life at home. So as an example, for me, I'm here on the screen with my students, but right next to me is my kindergartner and my second grader and my fourth grader and my eighth grader off in a room doing their work at the same time. So, for me personally, it's going back and forth between being the teacher and being the mom at the same time. And each teacher is going to have different circumstances of how they're delivering their day. So for me, my day isn't necessarily from 8 to 3:30. I might be on at 9 o'clock at night getting stuff ready for the next day because I wasn't able to do it during the day because I was helping my own kids.
Sure.
So it's just a big shift. But overall, I mean, we all really had to evaluate like what is important to us. And I think all of the teachers at PRB, the biggest thing was keeping our relationships and connections with our students when we're not face to face with them. And so that's been the heart of everything that we're doing. And then asking ourselves, like, what is important in our curriculum and what can we let go? So trying to keep kind of, I guess, the meat of your curriculum going, but really it's just connecting with the kids. It's been hard.
Mm. Well, that sounds like not only a big shift, but a heavy lift. So I
Mhm.
appreciate that. But I'm curious, are you still lecturing, for example? And as the French teacher, are you communicating with your students in French over Schoology, I guess? Or, I mean, tell me a little bit more about a class. What does a class look like?
Yeah, it's been interesting just for me. I mean, the heart of what I do is communicating,
Mm,
so it's taken it's a lot different, but yes, I haven't done any live, like, it's everybody there at the same time yet. That's really tough with the ages I have. A lot of them are working during the day, their schedules are all over the place, but I have been doing videos, so I've been doing teaching videos in French, and then I just upload them on Schoology. They're able to watch them, and then they are responding to me. I'm getting videos back from them in French. So we're doing writing in French, and then we are doing the speaking in French as well. So
nice. Well, we're all obviously hearing a lot about challenges, whether it's teachers' challenges or students' challenges, but can you give us a ray of hope or a silver lining? Tell us something that's happened during distance learning that's really put a smile on your face.
well, kind of back to the relationships again. This is giving us a chance to kind of see kids in their own setting. I kind of do a daily discussion question, and just this morning I asked them to post a picture of something that made them happy. And so just this morning, quick before knew I was going to be here with all of you, I was checking in on those answers, and I've had pictures of hedgehogs, I've seen horses, I saw a picture of their beautiful yard. They were happy the sun was shining. So it's really fun to have a little bit of a chance to see kids outside of school, literally.
Nice. Well, many people in our district, of course, are familiar with your work, Melanie. You offer a life-changing experience for students, which is to travel abroad as part of your French curriculum. So I'm curious, were you planning on traveling this summer? Are you going to Quebec? Were you planning on going to France? Tell us a little bit about how your field trips, your international field trips are being affected, but just field trips in general. If you can speak on behalf of some of your fellow teachers and how obviously field trips aren't taking place right now. Will they?
Uh, that's a good question. I was lucky that I was in between trips. So we traveled last summer, and my next trip wasn't planned until 2021. So I was on an off year. But I do know many teachers traveling through the same company as myself or other ones that are going out, and none of them are going out. Everything was canceled. My eighth grader was going on a Washington, D.C. trip through our school this summer, and hers is also postponed until next summer. So the word, even from my tour company, is we are still, what they say, traveling in 2021, but everything's still a little iffy, even out to 2021. So it's been hard. Depending on what parents did as far as travel insurance and things, there have been families that have lost money because they weren't able to get back through the cancellation policies of the travel companies and everything else. So um, I feel lucky that we weren't traveling, but I feel really bad for the ones who are missing out. It's a huge thing. It's such a huge part of my curriculum, and anyone who teaches a language, to get them out there. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Well, I really hope your 2021 trip is a go, and I really appreciate the work that you do at the district and those life-changing excursions that you take. So thank you, Melanie.
Thank you.
Nikki, as Youth and Family Services Director, I'm sure you're hearing a wide variety of challenges from both students and parents and families as a whole. So can you tell us a little bit about what kind of challenges families are struggling with right now, or grappling with rather?
Absolutely. I think it seems kind of similar across the board when we're talking about um, whether you're working at the school or working at a gas station or a restaurant. I think all of the struggles are similar. What we're hearing a lot from parents is that they're just pretty stressed out about the change. It was pretty significant and quick change, like Mr. Endicott said, so not a lot of preparation. And so trying to figure out how to handle that is, I think, the biggest challenge right now for families. And I think obviously the financial insecurities and food insecurities and just the not knowing what's coming up in the future has been difficult for families.
It's very unsettling. It's very difficult to plan, so I can certainly understand that. You know, one of the things that's been on my mind a lot, because I have nieces and nephews who are planning on graduating this year or being a part of a graduation ceremony. We all know that's, very much of a watershed event in our lives. With the prospect or the possibility of school not coming back for the rest of the year, what's the strategy for graduation, or what are you hearing from students? I mean, that's a very important part of our lives.
Well, Nikki's got a senior that's going to be graduating this year, so she's right in the midst of what that feels like as a parent. Right now, we're holding on to the glimmer of hope that we might be able to hold the ceremony, but we're also looking at what are some other ideas that could come forward. Is there some way to virtually do it? Is it delaying it until later in June, July, August? To be honest, we don't have an answer right now, but we know that we have to look at a lot of those different options.
So are you hearing any feedback from students about how they're feeling about that, your seniors?
I'll let those that are more connected to the students speak to that.
Nikki, can you still hear me? Are you with us? Melanie, are you hearing anything from your students about graduation?
I've just heard that they're very sad and just wondering. I've gotten emails. Do you know what's happening with graduation? Do you know? And I honestly hadn't heard anything from admin about it. So I've said, you know just as much as I do. So they're
Yeah.
just worried, sad.
So there'll come a point here in the near future when your strategy will have to be shared with the rest of the district and the students, of course, I'm assuming, superintendent.
As soon as we have more guidance from the governor's office, as of right now, we are anticipating being in school on May 5th and moving forward. Now, I think that's probably a slim chance personally, but we really can't make a definitive plan until we actually know what are the guidelines that we have to live under at that point. But we are gathering a list of ideas. I feel bad for these seniors. There's a lot of experiences. We canceled prom.
Right.
There's just those last couple of months of being together as a class, and in a small school like ours, everybody knows everybody and everybody's connected in some way. And so to lose that connection is difficult. To not have the chance to be with the madams at the last couple of weeks and share those moments together is difficult. So we're trying to find ways. We actually had a brainstorming session yesterday with the admin of ways we can celebrate seniors and come up with at least some things we can do over the next month or two to honor them in some form or another, such as we're turning our football field lights on every Monday night at 8:20 so it's 2020 military time and on for 20 minutes to honor those seniors and celebrate their accomplishments, because those haven't diminished or gone away just because we're not sitting in a school building right now.
Wow. Well, that just gave me goosebumps. Thanks for sharing that. Hey,
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you kind of a follow-up question that's related. I mean, school is very much about the academics, of course, and the sound education, uh, but it's also about socialization. So, how are students staying connected? Is the school providing any opportunities or format for students to stay connected with one another?
I would say not anything formally other than, I mean, the students have the emails, have the Schoology pieces. I know they're connecting via different social media mechanisms, sharing the TikTok moment. Is that what it's called? TikTok, right? I'm an old guy. The TikTok moments and sharing, getting on different platforms like that to share some things. So I've heard of students doing that. I've noticed personally on my own Facebook page that I've got more students asking to be friends on Facebook. And, that's pretty cool as a superintendent. You got those high school kids that say, I'm going to visit with that old guy that lives in that office down there. So I see them reaching out and seeking that connectivity. But connections are just at the heart of everything we do.
I can speak to that a little with my own
Yeah.
kids. All four of my children have had class meetings with their teachers and their fellow classmates on the screens. Yesterday, they were sharing their favorite stuffed animal with each other. So they're talking to each other with their teachers. Pretty cool to see.
That is cool. So I also want to explore a little bit about food security. We've kind of danced around that a little bit. And Superintendent, you mentioned that you're delivering meals both breakfast and lunch. Can you tell us a little bit more about the logistics? And is that something that all districts are doing? It's not uncommon for students, of course, to depend on schools for some of their most significant and nutritious meals. So how's that working at the district level right now?
Yeah, the federal and state governments actually have really made it pretty easy for us to secure the food and the funding to do it. There's a summer food program that we take part of every summer that they extended basically into this year. So we can offer free meals to all of our students, or really anybody 18 and under, we can offer free meals to. And then we also are offering delivery of those meals to a lot of our families. So that part of it is labor intensive because you're now delivering 600 lunches, 600 breakfasts every day, along with some schoolwork and other components. But it also is a way to connect. So we usually have some paras, admin, people that are riding along with the bus drivers. Kids are waving from their windows and finding a little bit of connection that way. So I think there's some really neat pieces besides the fact that we're offering some food and nutrition for our families, at least Monday through Friday. In our district, we also have our own food shelf within the school, what we call the Tiger Den food shelf. And we have seen the need for that just grow exponentially over the last few weeks since this shelter in place went into effect. We probably, in the first 3 days, handed out as much food as we had in the past year or two combined. We continue to see that need grow. We've been very blessed with just great donations, people that have donated financially to it. We had the warehouse, a local youth place in town that did a food drive, and we had 2 truckloads of food from them. The outreach program of Brainerd Lake, formerly Kids Against Hunger Group, they've been providing us thousands of meals, literally, to give to families as well. So we do have that for anybody that's listening and has food insecurity or needs from a family sense, and breakfast and lunch isn't meeting that need. Please contact us because we'll set you up with a box of groceries. And I know the food shelf, the Pine River Backus food shelf, is also open. So we have seen that need grow, and I think it addresses, while we certainly want to educate kids, the first priority is the mental health of everybody and the physical health of everybody. We know we're going to have a gap when we're done with this educationally, but you know what? We've got great people that are going to make that gap up. I'm not worried about that. What I am worried about is that we get everybody there healthily. And is that a word? I think so. What is that in French, madame? Um, um, so I would tell any parents, Melanie talked about the challenge of being a teacher and a parent at the same time. Anybody that's just frustrated or they see their kids getting frustrated, take a break. Don't get it done. It's okay. And you
Okay.
need to have permission to know this isn't going to be perfect or be
Sure.
exactly what you want it to be. You got to make sure people are healthy and that people are in a good place mentally. So I would, if anything we get out of this, that's the challenge, is to make sure that you're taken care of. And if you need to reach out for that care, please do. We'll take care of you.
Well, we've only got about a minute left, and I got two quick questions for you. Can we speak briefly to childcare? I know a lot of families have parents that are still working. So, Melanie, you might be best to field this question. How are parents dealing with this, to the best of your knowledge, just in a couple seconds?
To the best of my knowledge, if they had daycare going before this all happened, the daycares are still open. So most of them are still being able to have their kids at the daycares. But other than that, I do know a lot of my older students are now watching their younger siblings while they're at home.
Okay. Well, Superintendent, I have one final question for you, which is, what does the emergence strategy look like? I know we're not sure whether or not school's coming back yet this year or not, but just generally speaking, what are your thoughts about how school is going to resume? And briefly, what's the new normal?
Well, I think this is our norm. We're going to plan on this being our norm until it's not. And then we will hopefully have to adjust to the regular norm of being back in school, whether that be in May or whether that be next fall. But we'll be ready to go either way. There's an immense amount of flexibility that's going to have to be shown right now.
Okay. Well, once again, I want to thank all three of you and all your colleagues for all your really important and courageous work. You guys are heroes in our communities right now, and I'm grateful, and I know that most all of our viewers are very grateful as well. So thank you for joining me, and thank you for all the work that you do.
Thank you, Jay.
Thanks for having us.
And I want to thank all of you for joining me again. And I want you to know that Lakeland Currents will continue its coverage during the pandemic. So please let me know what is currently on your mind. What would you like to discuss during the pandemic? Send your ideas to Lakeland Public TV. Everyone, stay safe, stay strong, be kind, and be well. I'm Jason Edens, your host of Lakeland Currents. And we'll see you again next time.